Okay, so as I said earlier, thank you everyone for dialing on to class 1. As we discussed during our demo series, what we will be doing is, before directly jumping onto any of the business analyst related technical topics, okay, so we'll be spending our first few days of this training program trying to understand some of the basic concepts. That is, we'll be laying down the foundations before we start learning the business analyst part. Now, this is important because some of our candidates, the students, may not be familiar with the terms that are used within the IT industry or how it operates in general. So the very first class that we will be going through today is actually on the commonly used terms. Okay. So what are some of the commonly used terms in the IT industry? If you are new to IT industry, this will be helpful for you to get started to understand some of the moving pieces. If you are already working in the IT industry, you may be aware of some of these terms, so it will be a refresher for you, while a few terms may be new to you as well. Okay, so let's get started. Now, the very first thing that we have in place is SOW, okay, or that is called as statement of work. Okay, so the first thing is statement of work. Statement of work is often abbreviated as SOW. Now, it's an agreement between the client and the IT organization that details about what type of work needs to be performed. Okay, so statement of work is often abbreviated as SOW. Basically, it's an agreement between the two parties. Suppose as a client, I want some kind of software. Okay, and maybe I do not have enough expertise within me or within my team to build that software. So what happens is I reach out to an IT organization who can help me build that software. Now, when I reach out to the IT organization, I don't want any kind of disputes to occur later. So what we both do is the IT organization and me as a client, we both get into an agreement like what kind of work is needed, what will be the duration of the work, the amount of the work, okay, how many people could possibly be involved in this transaction, who, how can we come out of this agreement if needed. Okay, so basically it entails every agreement between the client and the IT organization. If you guys would have stayed on rent, you would have seen, the rental agreement between the landlord and yourself as tenants. So this is much more similar to that. So before you start occupying any space for rent, what you do is you both usually come into an agreement that yeah, these are the terms and conditions of our stay, like what will be the rent, how long the agreement will be valid. So the same thing applies in the case of IT industry as well. Now, SOW or statement of work is not something that you will be hearing on day-to-day basis, is not something that you will be talking on a daily basis, but it is something that will govern how the policies will be followed. For example, when I was working for US client, US health insurance client, okay, there was a rule applicable. Okay, so Medicaid was a government plan for poor people, for providing health coverage to the poor people. So what government also made a rule is, since we are offering Medicaid plan for poor people, so no one outside of US should have access to data. So whenever we had to build a software which will involve Medicaid related stuff, because we were working from India, we would not be involved. And how did we know that we don't have to get involved? Because it was mentioned in the SOW. Okay, so you may not come across SOW or talk about SOW on a daily basis or even on a weekly basis, but on and off there will be this document which will govern who will do what kind of work. Okay, fair enough. Let's move on to the next keyword, that is scope. Okay, so scope is actually something that helps define the boundaries of our work or boundaries of the product that we will be developing. So scope is basically defining boundaries of the product. Now, what is meant by defining boundaries? So in simple terms, boundary is nothing but what will be included versus what will be excluded. Okay. In IT industry, usually when we talk about exclusion, we are not saying that this will never be a part of our product or our software. What we are saying is, as of today, we are not going to involve this feature, but maybe in future, we will incorporate this feature as well. Now, if you guys go anywhere, like suppose you are driving your car on the road, or suppose you are constructing a house, there will always be boundaries within which you have to do your work. So if you want to build a house, you will buy a plot. Probably that plot will have a definite, or you'll buy a land. That land will have a definite size. Okay, it will not be indefinite. Similarly, the road will also have a definite size. So you have to drive on that road only. Okay, so similarly, in the case of IT industry as well, when we want to build a software, when we want to build a product, we must clearly know what are our inclusions and exclusions. We cannot build an indefinite software. Okay, suppose if client tells us that build something and there is no clear distinction between inclusion and exclusion, you'll keep on building forever. So just to give you guys an example, suppose client says that I am selling items online. Okay, I am into e-commerce. Currently, I am asking my customers to make cash on delivery payments. Okay, now cash on delivery is leading to many problems. So what I want is, I want my customers to be able to make digital payments. So can you incorporate digital payments? Yes, but then when it comes to digital payments, there are multiple categories. There is UPI, there is net banking, there is credit card, there is debit card, there are these digital wallets. Okay, so which one do you actually want to incorporate? Now, obviously, you may say that as a client, you may say that I want all of these to be, sorry, I want all of these to be included in my digital payment section. Well, fair enough, but as an IT company, I cannot work on all five of them at the same time and give you something within 2 weeks, 4 weeks, or 6 weeks. Okay, so maybe you should have some ranking that work on implementing, let's say, credit card as the first thing, then implement UPI as the second thing, then maybe net banking as the third thing, or debit card as fourth, and then wallets as the last one. Okay, so when you start ranking things, what will happen is as IT company, I'll understand that I have to work on credit card, creating a digital payment for credit card first. Once that is complete, then I will move on to the UPI part, then I will move on to net banking part, and so on. Okay. Now this ranking is called as prioritization in the world of IT. Okay, prioritization is a very important concept. As we move forward in our classes, we will be understanding prioritization in detail when the time comes. What is prioritization? What are the techniques available for prioritization, and how do we do prioritization? But as of now, you can relate it with the ranking. So if I have multiple requirements to be fulfilled, what rank do I give basically in the order of priority? So based on that rank, I'll get to know that credit card is the most important one that I have to get started with. Okay. Now I'll cover one more part, that is change request, and then I'll take a pause for any questions. So the next item is change request or change of requirement. Okay. Now, usually there are two parts to describing CR or change request. Change request is often abbreviated as CR. Now, the first part is, suppose there is an existing or a new product. You want either there is an existing product or you want to build a new product. In IT industry, we keep using the words, just a minute, change request. So in IT industry, we keep using these words interchangeably. That is product equal to software. Now assume there's an existing product or there's a new product or a new software that you want to build. So what happens is any client, what they will do is they will be communicating about this new changes through something. Okay. So, for example, existing product case, like we took this example that I have an e-commerce platform. In this e-commerce platform, I want to add digital payment feature. Currently, it is only taking care of cash on delivery. So I want to add digital payment feature. That means I want some changes in my existing software. I already have a software. I already have an e-commerce platform. In that e-commerce platform, I require some changes. Okay. So usually I'll communicate these changes to the IT company by creating a CR, okay, or a change request, that hey, I want a payment feature in my e-commerce platform. So that will be the official way of communicating between the two, that is IT industry and sorry, the IT company and the client, through CRs, that is change request. Now another way, another usage of this change request that is not so predominant but still in some organizations you may see, that is change in requirement. So suppose we have collected requirements from our client. Once the requirements were collected, we documented it, everything is complete, and now we are coding as per the requirements. Now once you start coding, client comes back and says that hey, I want more changes. Actually the original requirement that I gave you is not up to the mark, I want more changes in it. Okay. So those changes in the middle of the work, is also termed as change in request. Okay, so original request, whatever was submitted, now client is looking for a change in that request. But usually, in most of the cases, in most of the IT organizations that you may work with, a change request is an official way of communication between the client and the IT company regarding what type of work needs to be performed. Okay, very rarely you will see that someone is using a CR word for denoting a change in requirement in between the work. Okay, but still we must be aware of all these terms. So this was our second definition, and this change request was our third word. Now before we move further with the fourth keyword or the fourth word, I would like to stop here and see if there are any questions that you guys may have. Okay, I'll take the silence as no questions. So we'll move ahead with our class. Now, why are we learning about all these terms? Okay, so one thing is to make ourselves acquainted with these terms used in the IT industry, and second is to incorporate these terms in our day-to-day usage as well. Okay, what happens is we often try to memorize terms. When you memorize, there is always a risk of forgetting things, and you don't want to forget things, especially in the middle of an interview, because that may create a wrong impression as well. So what we want to set the tempo right from the starting is that in your workplace, wherever you are working currently, try to utilize or try to talk in these terms whenever you come across any type of situation which may require usage of these terms, so that way it will help you get these terms in your day-to-day life as well, so that you don't have to memorize these terms especially, and don't have the risk of forgetting these terms in the cases of an interview. Okay, now if you are not working currently, or if you are someone who says that no, I may not be able to use these terms in my day-to-day work, so this training program will be happening every day for the next 1.5 2 months. Okay, so at least in your training programs try to talk in these terms only, so that way again you get these terms in your day-to-day life usage. Now the next one is where as a BA you will be spending most of your time, that is elicitation. Elicitation is an act of basically drawing out emotions, facts, or opinion from the other person. Okay? Elicitation, information, knowledge, emotions, facts from the other person. Now, you may be asking, like, how come it is important? All we are doing is we are trying to get out information, knowledge, or emotion from the other person. So how is it important? Because all the information that you get from the other person, these are the ones that can be translated to requirements. So that's your starting point. Not every time when you talk to a customer that everyone will be comfortable and will give you the information in the first place. Now, we'll not go into the software part today, but to give you a small example of this elicitation, how it could help you. Now, assume that I tell you that get me a pair of clothes. Okay, I tell you get me a pair of clothes. Now, what could potentially happen is you will take this statement, you'll go out in the market, and probably let's say you buy me or you get me a black jeans and let's say some t-shirt. Okay. Now there is some problem over here. The problem is that when you give it to me, because I gave you the original instruction, so when you give it to me, chances are that I may not like it. Why I may not like it? Because you never bothered to ask what kind of cloth are you looking for. Okay. My original instruction given was incomplete, was vague. Many a times when you interact with your clients, they may not give you complete instructions in one go. It's not that they don't want to give instructions, probably they are not aware of what all instructions should I give, how much information should I reveal. So as a business analyst, we start probing cases. For example, in our case, the first instruction could be, okay, good that you want pair of clothes, Rahul, but how do I know what type of cloth or what category of clothes you want? Do you want top wears or bottom wears? Do you want clothes for yourself? Okay, that is for male, female. Now potentially, once you get answers to categories like, okay, get me two top wears, you can further probe things. So for example, if client says that give me top wears, you can further probe things like, do you want shirt or t-shirts? Now once they clarify that, okay, give me shirt, you can further talk about the material or the quality of it. Okay? Are you looking for any cotton shirts, linen shirts? Okay, what kind of clothing material do you want? Then along with material, you can also ask for things like color. You can also ask for budget range. Now suppose after asking all these questions, eventually what happens is you get this response that I want one black cotton shirt, okay, and one white cotton shirt. Okay. Now compare this with the original statement that you had. Get me a pair of clothes. When you started probing further, that is what you were doing is you were drawing out information and the knowledge that the client has. So after you asked some meaningful questions, you got to this state: one black cotton shirt and one white cotton shirt. Now, when you go out in market, you will buy or you will look specifically for these things. When you look specifically for these things and buy it, and now when compare it with the original items that you bought, now compare this with the what you have bought now. Originally, we bought this without understanding anything. Now we have bought this, and there is a good chance that when we go to client will accept what we have bought. So that's the same thing which applies in the case of IT industry as well. When we talk to clients, not every time you will get a straightforward detailed information. We start with something vague, we keep probing client and using our experience until we get to something which is more specific and not vague. When you get specific items, you are able to build a software or a product that is more in line with the customers or the client's expectations. That is why elicitation is one of the key aspects in a BA's life. That is where you'll try to translate that information into the form of requirements, and these requirements will be very specific in detail. As we move forward in this training program, we'll be talking about requirements in detail. What is requirement, different categories of requirements, and what are the different elicitation techniques that a BA has to basically get these requirements. Okay, but as of now, I hope the word elicitation is clear, because we keep using the term elicitation techniques during our training program. The next one is business rules. Okay. Now, business rules are the policies, procedures, guidelines, frameworks that will decide how the business operation is going to be performed. Okay. Now, to give you guys a simple example of a business rule, consider login screen. Okay, we all have access to login screen, whether it is Gmail, whether it is e-commerce platform, whether it is social media accounts, whether it is LinkedIn or anything. We all have a login screen where basically what we do is we enter our user ID and password. Okay, if the combination of user ID and password is correct, then what happens is login successful. If the combination is correct, and if the combination is incorrect, login unsuccessful. Okay, now this is our regular flow, regular work, that when you get access to login screen, you have to use your user ID, you have to use your password, and then click on the login button. Now, how does business rule come into picture in this entire flow? So business rule, if you would have observed, whenever you are about to set password, okay, there will be some restriction or rules that will govern what kind of password you can put. For example, it may have certain rules like there should be minimum of one uppercase alphabet, okay, minimum of one lowercase alphabet, there should be minimum of one number, there should be minimum of one special character. Okay. Now there could also be restriction on total length of the password, that it should be 8 characters minimum. Basically, it should be more than 8 characters only. Now all these rules that we are putting, okay, all these rules that we have put, it is basically deciding how the password field is going to work. Okay, no one can randomly come and give any password like ABCD 1234. You have to create a password that follow or that satisfy these criterias. That is what our business rule is. We said when we were talking about business rule, we said these are the policies, procedures, and guidelines which will decide how an operation should be performed. Okay. So whenever we write down our requirements, we always ensure that if there are any specific rules related to any requirement, we capture it well as well. Rules will actually help you decide or describe how that particular operation should be performed. Okay, so there are two parts of writing requirements. One is what is the operation that we want to perform. Suppose I want to build a login screen. The login screen will have user ID, password, and submit button. That's the overall operation I want to perform. Within that operation, are there any restriction or rules applicable on what kind of user ID people can enter, what kind of password people can enter? For example, in some cases, we want mobile number to be user ID. So user should only enter mobile number. If they enter anything other than mobile number, not acceptable. So we'll move on to the next keyword, environment and estimations. Once estimation is done, I'll take a pause again, see if there are any questions. Now, environment is also called as a region. Okay, so they basically are there to support parallel development. Okay? Now, what exactly is this environment or this region thing? So suppose I have built a software and I gave it to my customer for using it. I am a bank. Suppose I am HDFC Bank. I have built a net banking application. I have asked my customer to use this net banking application. Now, while the customer is using the net banking application, customer gives me a feedback that, hey, everything is good, but you know what? I want to add beneficiary so that I can transfer fund to them. Can you please add that feature as well? Okay. So net banking application, I receive a feedback that they want to transfer money to a specific person. So give an option of adding beneficiary. So once I add a beneficiary, I should be able to transfer money to that person. Now I have one copy of the software and that copy is being used by the customer. So suppose if I am making some changes directly in the software that is used by the customer, there could be some problem faced by the customer. I may have to tell the customer that, hey, you know what, you want new feature, I will give you the new feature. But for next 2 weeks, don't use the software. I will be making changes. So the software could be unstable in the next 2 weeks. So don't use it. And once the software is stabilized, once the feature is added, once it is stabilized, you start using the software. Now imagine this scenario. Will any customer accept it? That for next 2 weeks, I don't have to use your software. Now that is obviously unacceptable. No one is going to believe in such things. So what happens is, then how do you ensure that I add the new feature without affecting my customers? So that is where your concept of environment or region comes into picture. So more popularly, you have environments like development environment, you have QA environment, and then you have production environment. Okay. So any software that is in production environment, okay, is what will be used by the customers. Any software which is in production environment is what is used by the customers. Development environment, QA environment is something that is more specific to the IT company. Okay, this is used by the developers and QA to make changes, to play around with the software. Whenever there's a new feature that needs to be added in the software, they will add it, they will play around, they will make changes, they will test it, they will ensure that the software is stable, smooth, everything is working as expected. Then they will move it to production and tell the customer that don't use the software for 1 hour at least, because in that 1 hour window we will update the software for you with the new feature. So now 1 hour is acceptable than 2 weeks. If anyone tells me don't use the application for 2 weeks, that is insane. But if anyone tells me that don't use it for 1 hour, I will accept it. That okay, 1 hour is not a big deal, I'll wait for 1 hour, not a big problem. So environments actually help you do the parallel development without affecting the final product. if I'm making some changes in the product and development environment and I find that the product is unstable, it is not working as expected, then the issue is only in the development environment. At least the production environment where customers are using the software, there is no problem. So you'll keep hearing the term, specifically in terms of code movement. When you give requirements, developer will say the code, I'm doing coding. The code is in development environment or development region. Once the development is complete, a developer may say, now the code has been moved or progressed to QA region. So tester has to do the testing. Okay. Similarly, once the QA work is complete, once the testing is complete, the tester will say that, okay, now the QA is complete. We may move it to the next environment. Now, I'm not talking about the multiple environments that could be present. Okay, different organizations have different structure of handling this work. Predominantly, at a minimum level you will find these environments. Now in between you can have multiple environments, like some organizations can have UAT environment where clients will do the testing. There could be pre-production environment, which is kind of a placeholder. Suppose I have built the feature, I have built the code, everything is ready, tested, client also has taken a look at it, everything is all done, but client is saying that don't implement the feature, just keep it on hold for next 1 month. So I have this pre-production environment where I can hold on to these items, that these are all tested items. Whenever I get a green signal, I just push them from pre-production to production environment. So depending on the IT company, these environments could vary, but at minimum, you will always find development, QA, and production. These three environments will always be present. Now the next part is estimation. Now in IT industry or in any industry, even we as regular Indian citizens, nothing work without estimates. The very first thing that happens is if I call you and ask you uh, that how much time. So for example, so if I call Bhargav or Nandini and I ask them when are you guys coming to office, immediately they'll give me an estimate that Rahul will be reaching, we are almost ready, we'll be reaching office in half an hour. Okay, that half an hour is what? Estimate. If I give you some work and I ask you that how much time do you think it will take you to complete this work, you may give me some rough estimation immediately. That is, we may take 4 hours to finish the work. If I ask you whether you want to go on vacation, do you want to go to Goa? How much time do you require in Goa, in order to have a memorable vacation? You may say that we may require 3 to 4 days of time to be spent in Goa. Okay. Now all these are what? Estimates. So whether you talk about our day-to-day routine, whether you talk about our professional routine, we often come across estimations because that is the basis of doing or carrying out any kind of work. Usually our estimations are measured in hours. Okay, we say I will do this work in 4 hours, I'll do this work in 10 hours, give me 2 days, I will require 3 to 4 days minimum of vacation to enjoy Goa. Okay, so whenever you come across any kind of changes, people will immediately ask you the first thing. Suppose there is a change request, we were talking about change request here. Suppose there is a change request, a customer is giving you new requirement that needs to be taken care of. Immediately what people want is that you understand what the change request is, you understand what customer is asking for, and then immediately give me estimation. Because in IT industry, why we require estimation? Because this estimation eventually translates to money. Okay, so if I say I will take, right in the starting we will tell the customer that I'll charge you $10 for every 1 hour. Okay, $10 for 1 hour. That is there in our agreement, that I'll charge you $10 for 1 hour. Suppose client gives me some work and asks me, how much time are you going to take? I tell the client I'll take 10 hours. Okay, I'll tell the client I take 10 hours. So based on this calculation, what is the amount client will have to pay? If they are paying $10 for 1 hour, then 10 into 10 becomes $100. So that way the client will also know how much money do I have to pay if I want to get this work done. Okay, so that is why estimation is another common term that you'll keep hearing. Any new request, people will immediately ask you, hey, what's the estimation to get this done? Okay, now we'll take a pause here, see if there are any questions. Guys, if you are or at least are you guys able to follow along with me? Are you able to understand the terms that we are discussing so far? Yes, no? Okay, well, thank you for your response. Well, good to see that you guys are able to follow along in that. On that note, if you guys don't have question, we'll continue to move forward. On the next slide, we have few of the people that you may be interacting with as a business analyst. So let's understand some of these people that we'll be talking to. So right from stakeholders till the test lead part, okay, these are the different bunch of people that you may be talking to. Okay, so let's get into these people. So starting first one is our stakeholders. Other than stakeholder, you may be interacting with SMEs or consultants. From our team side, you may be interacting with technical architects. Okay, now we'll explore these terms one at a time. On the very first term, sorry, that is the stakeholder. So we will get a detailed meaning in our upcoming classes, but for now, who is a stakeholder? So if I want to roughly tell you guys, stakeholder is nothing but our client. Okay, till till this point number 7, I was using the word client and not the stakeholder. So till now we were using the word client more often than stakeholder. Okay. So what happens is, officially we actually refer to the word stakeholder, because stakeholder word, actually the word stakeholder gives us flexibility or opportunity to include a wide variety of people. Okay. So stakeholder is basically what? Who is impacted by the execution of the project. Okay. Now this I'm saying anyone. Okay, we are not restricting it to clients. So stakeholder is a broader word that can refer to your clients, your internal team members, your project managers. Okay, but stakeholder is basically a person who is impacted, either positive impact or negative impact, by the execution of the project. Whatever work we are doing, that work can positively or negatively impact the person. Now, usually in 99% cases, our stakeholder, basically whenever we use the term stakeholder, we are referring to the client. Okay, that is paying us the money to build the software. Okay, but as we explore in our upcoming classes, we will see different categories of stakeholder, that other than client, even our team members are part of stakeholder list. Even there are third party persons who are not involved directly can also become a stakeholder. But we majorly try to refer to the keyword or the word stakeholder in our references. Okay. So for example, instead of saying I'm waiting on requirement from client, we try to say I'm waiting on requirement from the stakeholder. Okay. Now, often when you attend interviews, it is not the case of knowledge. Most people have the relevant knowledge, especially if you are working already into the IT industry, whether you work as a BA or you work as a developer or you work as a QA, you already must be aware of, what the entire process is, what BA is exactly doing. But what really lacks is the appropriate usage of the terms. You may be giving answers in very simple language, like, yeah, as a BA I try to get requirements from the client. Okay. Whereas a more experienced, more seasoned BA will give an answer like, I try to get the requirements from the stakeholders by using appropriate elicitation techniques. Now, in the second case, the interviewer gets an impression that, this guy is truly a BA. He's talking about the keywords like stakeholder, elicitation, requirements. That means he or she has good knowledge about what a BA does. Whereas in the first example that I gave, I'm trying to get requirements from the client. An interviewer might get doubt that, maybe this person is working as a developer or a QA and just knows about the process and is just explaining me the process in simple words. So that is the intention of these keywords that we are talking today, that you remember them, you memorize them. And the best way to memorize is to keep using them on day-to-day basis. Okay. Next is SME. SME stands for subject matter experts. Now this is a term that is used for people or person who has built expertise on a particular subject. Okay, irrespective of the subject. It's not that I'll only use the word SME for technical subjects. SME could be anything. Particularly when you work with a client, you will often, get references of people whom you may think that, does not have any technical knowledge, but because of their work in a given field, they are widely regarded as SME. Okay. So for example, assume that you want to automate the process of opening bank account. Okay, suppose currently a person is visiting to a bank branch, filling up a form manually, submitting the documents along with the form, then submit it to the appropriate person in the bank. The person will take out the application, will verify the contents of the application, will verify what kind of documents you have given, okay, or what kind of documents you have submitted along with the application. After all this manual verification, then the person will key in the data from your form into the system. So basically you will then get a bank account. Now you want to automate this process. You know that people nowadays are more comfortable using mobile applications, or even a website will work. So you want people to directly visit the web app, either open the mobile application, visit the desktop website, and then follow the simple steps to open up, to basically submit your application, to attach your documents, and the software itself will do the verification of fields. Okay, so if you want to automate this entire process of opening up bank account, what you need to know is, you are not going to talk to the owner of the bank. You are not going to talk to the branch manager to understand the details. What you will be doing is, you will be talking to the person who is actually reviewing the forms manually, because the person who is reviewing the forms manually understands what kind of mistakes people do, what details are present in the form, what details are mandatory in the form, where people can make mistakes, what type of mistakes, which type of document people are able to bring in, which type of document people are finding it difficult to bring along with themselves. So that person who is reviewing the application form, he may be a regular employee. That person will actually help you share valuable information that you can help use in building your software. Now that person is regarded as SME in the bank, and that person will help you write down your detailed requirements. Okay, so SME could be anyone, not just about technical topic, could be anyone who has thorough understanding, who is an expert on a given subject. Okay, now consultants are often used for people who work on contract basis. Okay, now I'm just roughly saying, on contract basis, different organizations can have different definition for consultant, but consultants to me is more like an SME. But SME is like a full-time employee. When you hire an SME on a contract basis, maybe you refer to them as consultants. Now remember, some of the organizations can have designation as consultant, whereas you will be working as a developer. Internally you will be working as a developer, project manager, BA, QA, but your designation could be consultant. So most probably an SME may be from the stakeholder side, but an SME could also be employed by the IT company as well. Now, next important one is technical architect. Now, this is your person who has tremendous technical knowledge and who can help you create technical design for the given requirement. So usually for large scale projects, I'm not asking for minor changes here and there. For example, if I have to tell you that move view to the second in category and move edit into the third place. Okay. If I just have to tell you move these two items, or if I tell you that change this icon here, okay, instead of showing this blue color notepad, show me some orange color notepad over here. Okay, instead of showing this icon for settings, maybe show a different icon for settings. If I talk about these minor changes, you probably don't require for these small changes a technical architect. Technical architect is more of a position for someone who is working on a very large scale project. Maybe we are building a new application from scratch. Okay. Maybe we are building new application, a new software. Maybe we are redesigning the existing application. Maybe our existing application is not efficient enough. It is consuming a lot of time. It has become slow. So we are redesigning the entire application. So in such cases, the first person whom as a BA you will interact with is technical architect. Once my requirements are complete, I'll usually hand over the requirements to the tech arcs. Now these are the people who will review my requirements and build a technical solution for it. That how can we translate your requirements into technology? What kind of technology may be required? Do we need to do coding in Python, Java, any other relevant language? What kind of servers do we require? So all those translations will be taken care by the technical architects. Now for small scale or medium scale projects, you may be talking to a dev lead or a tech lead instead of a technical architect. These are again more experienced professionals who can help create technical design or technical solution for the small or medium scale projects. Okay. Now, what are these small scale, medium scale projects? We are going to explore in our upcoming classes. But as of now, you can loosely say that if you want to construct a new house, okay, suppose I have a land parcel with me, and I want to build a house on top of it. So what do I usually do is I invite an architect. I show the architect the land that I have available. I communicate my requirements to the architect that maybe I want a garden, I want some parking space. I share my requirements with the architect. Now, taking into consideration the land that is available, taking into consideration my requirements, the architect will come up with a design. Okay. Once that design is ready, then I'll hire few laborers to work as per that design. Now imagine on the other case when you want to renovate your house. Okay, maybe you want to renovate just one section of a room, or maybe you just want to renovate one room in the entire house. You are not going to call in architect again. Okay, so maybe you may call in some interior designer, or maybe you may call in mason to actually talk about. So maybe you'll call in a mason to talk about how to redesign that one room alone. Okay. But in case if you want to demolish your entire house and build from the scratch again, you may call in an architect again. So that's the difference between an architect and a dev lead. Maybe when you talk about building new applications, redesigning of applications, you need someone with specific skill sets. When you talk about making small or medium scale changes, as we discussed in the case of a house, that instead of entire house, I just want to renovate one particular room or one section in the room. Maybe I'll not call in architect, I'll call in mason or interior designer. Okay, so that's your dev lead or tech lead's job. The last is test lead. Now this is the person, let me put it this way, who will be responsible for ensuring the quality of the product. Okay, so test lead will ensure that appropriate people are assigned to whatever software was built. They are going to test it, and they are going to ensure that the software matches the quality expectations, whether in terms of performance, in terms of getting the work done, that all the details are matching. Okay, now as a BA, Like I said, if it's a new application, big one, I may interact with technical architect. If it's a relatively smaller change, maybe a dev lead will do it. And for quality related challenges, I'll go to test lead. Now these dev lead may not actually do the coding. Dev lead, or often called as tech lead, technical lead or development lead, they may not do the actual code changes. They may have bunch of developers under them who will do the coding. Similarly, for test lead, he or she may not do the testing. They may have bunch of people under them who will do the testing. So those people will actually carry out the work, but guiding their team, educating their team, distributing the work within their team may be managed by these people. Okay, so as a BA, I can either directly talk to their team members who is doing the work, and check if they have any questions, doubts. I can coordinate with them, or I can coordinate just with the dev lead and not with the individual developer. Okay. Now we have two more terms left. One is change management and one is defects or bugs or issues. So we'll continue exploring these two terms, and we'll also start our new topic tomorrow. Okay. So any questions so far? Yeah, I'll take the silence as no questions. So we'll meet tomorrow. We'll start with the remaining two keywords, and we'll also start with the new topic. Thank you, everyone. We'll connect tomorrow.